Our first reading is a contemporary one, an excerpt from Brian McLaren in his book, Life After Doom, Wisdom and Courage for a World Falling Apart. The neocortex of the brain makes language possible and gives meaning to the word meaning. It enables me to talk to myself and observe myself. It integrates current awareness with memory of past experiences and with the ability to imagine future scenarios. It organizes my experience creatively and independently. Without the meaning committee in my brain, there would be no Bach or the Beatles, nor Galileo or Einstein, nor Moses or Mary or Jesus or the Buddha or Muhammad. It is the most recently evolved part of me, and frankly, it still has a lot of bugs and glitches that haven't been worked out yet. The ancient reading is an excerpt from Psalm 19. The ancient poet who wrote Psalm 19 opened themselves to the wisdom and understanding of the meaning of life through awe at the handiwork of God. Creation itself declares understanding without needing words to tell it. Sometimes meaning can be found simply through a feeling. Hear this poet now. The heavens herald your glory, O God, and the skies display your handiwork. Day after day they tell their story, and night after night they reveal the depth of their understanding. Without speech, without words, without even an audible voice, their cry echoes through all the world, and their message reaches the ends of the earth. Holding you in awe, Yahweh is purifying. It endures. Your decrees are steadfast, and all of them just. They are more precious than gold, than the purest of gold, and sweeter than honey fresh from the comb. In them your faithful people find instruction. There is great reward in keeping them. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. This time I'd like to invite Seth Kinzie forward. We're going to have a lovely conversation today. I hope that many of you know Seth. He's really a Renaissance man. He is a piano composer. He's a humanitarian. And he is a Rotary Peace Fellow. And today, I've invited him to come because of something that he said at the panel discussion when we had the Rotary Peace Fellow, Reem, come to our county a couple weeks ago. And it was kind of a throw-off comment that Seth made, but it shocked me. And I said, I have to talk to Seth about this. I think we need to have a conversation about this at church. And he said something like, it's in my experience as a Peace Fellow that cultures that have deep meaning-making capacity have greater capacity to create peace. Are you curious about that? I am too. Okay, Seth, let's go. Yeah, you have to turn it on.
Okay, good. Thank you. Great to be here.
Okay, so Seth, I know that you grew up in a family with multiple faith experiences, and today you practice Zen Buddhism. So my first question is, how does all of that influence your understanding of meaning making?
Yeah, I have a mother who's an Anabaptist minister in the Church of the Brethren, and did her dissertation on women's experiences overcoming apartheid in South Africa, which actually eventually got me to work in Africa from her work. And my father's sort of a Buddhist poet. He's a beautiful singer-songwriter, great banjo player, so he was always bringing in music. And two of my half-sisters are Reformed Jewish, and I have a late half-brother who's, I guess we'd call him Wiccan, kind of involved in earth spirituality. So in terms of meaning-making, there was just a great sense of curiosity and openness in my family to kind of allow me to explore whatever I wanted to go explore to find my own relationship with the Spirit. And I remember going to church and loving the community aspect, which is still always a part of me, of how we welcome in people. And it was just so refreshing to see people of all generations coming in and being invited in as they are, regardless of whether they're Christian or not. I remember going to camp every summer and just loving seeing the same people. For those who go to church camp, you know how special it is. But at the same time, we had an interfaith study among Sunday school people, and we'd go to different religious services around Los Angeles where I grew up, and we went to the biggest Mahayana Buddhist temple when I was probably 14 or something. And I just got to sit silently in this temple, and it was like this bell kind of rung in my mind, like, aha, I really need this community aspect of being with people, that's sort of that connection, outer connection, but I also need the inner connection of a silent practice, something that really focuses on being still and having the truth or the spirit or peace coming to you through that stillness, and I got that from Buddhism. So my life has always been kind of figuring out how to kind of bring those two together.
And we have a similar tradition in the Christian church, but it's one that's been hidden for several centuries, and that's the contemplative tradition and our mystics.
Yeah, I remember the Desert Fathers back in the day have always been practicing this. And, and the Trappists, they do meditation at their monasteries too. So, yeah, you're right. It's Buddhism doesn't own meditation. Nobody does. Right.
Okay, have there been particular moments where meaning-making helped you to navigate uncertainty? That's a big word right now. Everybody's uncertain.
Yeah. I guess I'd go to my nearest death moment. And that was when I was in India, actually on a little pilgrimage. I went to the Bodhi tree, which is the grandson tree of the original Bodhi tree that the Buddha sat under and had his moment, his aha moment, way back 2,500 years ago. And you can go there in a very poor part of northern India. I went there from Nepal, and go sit under the tree, and it's incredible. I mean, it's like one of those places. It's like, okay, humanity could be like this. It's just people from all over the world just meditating under a tree. It's amazing, like thousands of people every day.
Wow.
And I've been doing this for a long time. So a little bit after that, I remember being right there, and I saw a newspaper article that said, there's a part in India that has Indian swine flu, and 1 out of every 17 people that get it, which is about 7%, die. And I was like, that's crazy, ignore it. Not knowing I was actually going to that part, and actually I was about to get Indian swine flu. And I got it, and I remember I couldn't even put a single drop of water in my mouth. I was that sick. And I got to a point where I was just like, just howling by myself. Didn't know anybody. I was totally alone. I couldn't take any food. I couldn't even move. And I remember thinking, this is that article, man. You're living it right now, and you actually have to get up, or you might not make it. You have to get up. You have to go outside. You have to get help, because you can't. You're not going to make it. And there's kind of this thing in the back of my head. The point of the story is trust. Trust in something helping you out when you need help. And the trust was like, you are going to get up, and you're going to get the help you need. But you have to get up right now. You can't wait. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get up. He's like, give me a couple minutes. And eventually, who knows how, the monsoon started happening, Indian rains pouring down, and this man came to my door who was a tuk-tuk driver, a very poor taxi driver, essentially. He drives their motorbike. No idea who he was, no idea how he found me. He picks me up, he takes me downstairs, he brings me to the hospital, he stays with me for 3 days. We check out of the hospital together, I go back to his home, he nurses me back to health. And I was the sick man on the road. Somehow this man heard me moaning and knew I needed help and came. And when I asked him one day, why did you help me? You have no idea who I was. I couldn't have looked any worse probably. And he said, when I saw you and I heard you, I heard a brother and I wanted to help. And we've been in touch to this day. This man saved my life. It's just an incredible story. So I think just having trust, that maybe when you really need help will come to you, and having that voice come. Maybe I was just very lucky too, but that's one story that certainly comes to mind.
Wow, that's a life-changing story.
Yeah.
Wow. As Christians, we talk about meaning in the context of God's presence in our lives. How, throughout all your travels and your interfaith experiences, have you seen faith communities create meaning?
Well, being in Malawi, it's about 80%. This is a country in southern Africa, very narrow and long country, kind of centered around this huge lake that's 100 miles long, where development is very low here. Roads aren't very good. Internet goes out all the time. There's power outages for probably 6 hours a day, that you just kind of have to figure out. But community cohesion is actually really high there. So I kind of flip things on their head there, where in America, where individualism is very strong, but communities are actually pretty fragmented. But development is really good here. We got pretty good roads, we have, our electricity's good, our internet's good, our parks are really good. And in Malawi, they do something interesting. The majority faith, the Christians, 80%, they will put out signs on the radio that honor Muslim holidays and say respect Muslim holidays. And they put billboards out too, to make sure that there is unity in the country. And even in the government, they formed a government branch called the Department of National Unity. So imagine this in the United States. We have a Department of Defense and Interior, and then we have a Department of Unity, is what they have. And this unity is to bring people from different cultures together to make sure that the majority supports the minority, and they're supported in what they do. And of course, they're very, the conflicts don't really happen from religion in Malawi. They happen from land-based issues or poverty issues. And that's very, very special.
So I'm picking up this theme of community.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, of like how can we too move into an identity of even how we view ourselves kind of inherently as community person. Like myself is just part of this whole big organism of the church, and seeing that we often experience and go through life and get meaning as individuals on our individual journey, but maybe we've kind of run into that. We've run into the end of what that can offer for something, and there's this whole other path that we really get in the United States from churches are the most. But a lot of people don't go to church.
Right.
So they don't get that.
Right. I see that struggle here in this county, where we want to be we want to be good neighbors. We want to be a larger community, but we don't know how to navigate that. We don't have the tools anymore to navigate that.
Yeah. And what do you see this place as? I see people talk about this as an opportunity for that, but we still have very few, if any, indigenous people living here. And we're still living on this land that has kind of a violent history. Yet there is opportunity because of all this richness, vitality, richness in the arts and richness in the way people think here. So how do you go about seeing, how this is a place to do that and how we move forward?
How do I see that? That's why you're here, Seth. I mean, I ponder that constantly because I do feel like it's a deep yearning of people. It was a deep yearning of the rally yesterday that we want to be nonpartisan and we want to help one another, but it's not interpreted that way. And I do agree with you that communities of faith, we practice that sense of community, but it doesn't go beyond. Yeah. And I love that idea of a department of unity that focuses on that. I mean, wouldn't that be a mic drop moment in their county? Wow. So let's go about talking about your work in Africa, and you developed this peacemaking database, and talk about what you learned about meaning making and peace.
Sure. I mean, one of the big moment, the kind of the aha moments is, of course, I'm working with people who have lived on the land for we all come from Africa. All come from Africa. It's our roots started in Ethiopia, and then we all branched out from there. And so you have people that you're working with there asking about peace who have been developing relationships on the land for tens of thousands of years. And their language, their rituals, their celebrations are all rooted in the specific, the landscape that they're in, whether in the desert or the forest, what the trees are like. So people tell me peace is land-based. It's land-based. You have to have a relationship with your land. You have to know the land. You're a part of the land to have true peace there. And maybe that's one issue we have here. The United States is a pretty young country, for us, and we all came from all these other areas, and we're kind of being reinformed about how to live on this new land. And many of us have lived in different types of environments there. So in Malawi, I'm going to the same places where people really have that relationship with the land. It's very strong. For example, when they want to have a reconciliation practice between people who have been in conflict, you won't just involve the two people, and it won't be isolated in a room. It'll be outdoors, and you choose the tree that represents the type of conflict, and you do it underneath that tree, because that tree will bring some spiritual wisdom. There's sort of secrets that only sort of half reveal to me. And you invite the whole community there, and the whole community bears witness and is invited in to helping to solve the conflict. Because you know that when there's an argument between two people, it's a serious argument, maybe there's a falling out, it doesn't just affect those two people, like we might do in our judicial system here, it affects everyone. Everyone's affected by it. So seeing that you actually have your rituals that can create peace and solve conflict from using the natural world around you was really special. It was very special. So I think about that too. I think about how we can relate to our land, and having better understanding and taking care of the land is a way that we can really practice peace, because then we're really connected with ourselves too.
Okay, so you've had these experiences in Africa, you've built this database, and now, and you live in this county, and in a time of great division. So what are your thoughts about steps that we could take, even little micro steps of practices, to help build that foundation?
Yeah, that's the tough question.
Yeah, that
Bringing
is.
it back home, because I really don't know how I would do this work here. We actually had for those of you who maybe came a couple years ago, we did a peace mapping in Wallowa County, and we asked people what peace is like here. And it was basically hanging out with your pets and being alone in your cabin and going out, taking walks by yourself. So it was like a very personal sense of peace. So what can we do that I've learned out there? I guess I think about, as a Buddhist, part of peace practice is letting go. And when you're sitting, you're really just letting go. You're letting go of your expectations you have about yourself. You're letting go of, critical thoughts. You're just letting go. And eventually, maybe if you do a longer retreat, you can even let go of the idea of who you think you need to be. Just empty that out. And then the good news is, when you've kind of emptied out and been silent, a lot of this good stuff pops up. Compassion, it's easier to naturally be empathetic towards people. It's easier to feel harmony when you're by yourself. So I don't have any big ideas, really, but I know small ideas, we can always work on just letting go of these big things that we think we need to do to solve the world. And so that ourselves, peace is a personal journey. I'm also a musician, and music is so personal. It's such a personal journey that we have. And there's a person who talks about the moral imagination. And when you talk about the moral imagination, you're creating solutions where you think there were none. So when I think about peace here, we might look at our political environment and be like, there's no way out. There's really no way out. But when you looked at Africa's history too, the last 500 years of extreme oppression, certainly if we were in that situation, we might think there is no way out. And yet someone had the moral imagination to just look creatively for a solution where there previously was none. Letting go of the past of like, oh, I'm stuck in this cycle, and looking for a solution. And that's kind of the music quality of me sees that. When you're creating music, you're seeing there's previously nothing, and you have to come up with something. You have to come up with something and let something arise out of this nothing, and it's very beautiful. So I think about these peacemakers in areas where there looked like there was no future, and yet they refused to think that there's no future. They created something. They still imagined a world of hope and of peace.
So somehow this is connecting me with storytelling. And sometimes we tell ourselves stories, and it's just out of one perspective. And what you just shared was, can we tell other stories? Can we tell other possibilities as a really beautiful and simple way to say, what's another story we could tell about what's happening right now?
Yes, I think about stories get us outside of facts and figures. It gets outside of the literal world, like, we read the news, like this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. But we also know that in our personal lives, it's not just facts and figures. There's something deeply personal. And I think that's where music as a storytelling vehicle is so important, because when you're playing, people who have gone through a lot of trauma in particular, and you're trying to do workshops with them on explaining that, music is so important because if you're just trying to explain what happened to you, you can't really get to the heart of it. But if you hear a piece of music, you can kind of touch the heart through a way that you can't touch it by talking about it. And that storytelling, maybe allows us to heal a little bit better. When you think of, Jesus' parables and stuff, like that seems like one of the great storytelling vehicles for describing something that's kind of indescribable.
Yeah, and actually the story of the Christian story, the story of Jesus, is very relevant right now. Next Sunday, we're going to be talking about Jesus entering into Jerusalem on a donkey, facing the empire.
Yeah, he imagined something.
He imagined something very different, and he calls us to do that too. Yeah. So I want to wrap this up because we've kind of talked around it, but the initial thing that you said was meaning making and peace. Music is part of that. Storytelling is part of that. Opening ourselves up to different perspectives on meaning. So do you have anything else that you want to say about that?
I would say in the world of peace and sort of what I've felt, I think, in my travels and in my time is that peace is definitely an internal experience that we have that makes us feel harmony, but it's also relationships. Relationships are the main driver, and it can be a relationship with the land, it can be a deeper relationship with yourself, of loving yourself, but it can also just be a relationship and connecting with other people. And I've learned that in the places that I've gone where these relationships bring peace, and it really takes the pressure off of the self, of trying to do everything on your own, of being like a self-made man, self-made woman, where you're on your journey and you use your willpower and you make it through, So thinking about relationships is sort of the way forward, I think it does give me some hope too, because we can all work on relationships, and we all have great relationships with people out here, yeah.
Thank you, Seth. Do you guys have any questions? that you want to ask? Are we good for right now? Oh, yeah. Okay, Suze.
Do you know about Seth? Susan touched the story just in this yet. Do you know about the story in the circle event this afternoon at 2:77?
No, I don't think so.
Suze, come up here. Use the mic. Come on.
Oh, it's okay. I'm loud enough, right? I can do this. I can do that. So 2 o'clock, I advertised for it last Sunday, but please remember, at 2 o'clock, 2 to 4, Rich is looking at me like, what? And these are my Giuseppe people. Okay, we're doing so well. And the story circle, basically you come, no pressure, no rules, no nothing, just that you give enough time for everybody to tell a short story from your life.
Cool.
That's it. So I would love to see many of us there and do it.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on that storytelling because I think when we get quiet and we practice listening deeply to other people's stories, our soul wakes up. And something hits us deeply that lights something up, that lights up a memory, that maybe helps us resolve something in our own life, that then helps contribute to another part of that storytelling. And it's a very healing process. So thank you for reminding us of that today. Okay. Yes.
Seth, you said that an important part of peace is letting go, and that maybe as the default part. And we talked about individual practices and community practices. And individual practices of letting go, well, we have a repertoire of those. You mentioned meditation. What community practices do we have? What community institutions do we have for that letting go part?
So what community practices do we have for the practice of letting go?
Yeah, I remember any big event that brings us all together. I think we kind of let go of our little self, and maybe the big self comes on. I mean, what do we have? What have we had here through the years? I think of the fairy party. I think of the apple pressing party. I think of the thrift store formal. If you guys have been to that, these community events.
Josephie Fest.
The Josephie Fest, where we do music together. I also think of, and I don't know if you ever do laying on of hands here. Mm-hmm. I only saw it a couple times, but boy, it was really powerful. Where I was at camp, and so it was just kind of impromptu because we don't do it too much in the Brethren Church. And someone was invited. Does anybody need this? Does anybody need prayer? And someone was like, I've had a hard time. I could really use this. And all 30 of us, I think it was at a men's retreat, just put our hands on them. And we all there was no one person anymore. It was just supporting this, and it was so beautiful. Mm-hmm. So thinking about these rituals that often we have in the church,
right,
or that we can have in the community where we come together for the big me and not the little me, that maybe is something where our little self can fall away slowly.
Yeah, Brene Brown calls it collective effervescence. We talked about that last week, remember? Yes. And we did laying on of hands last week for Elliot before he left. Yeah. Thank you, Seth.
Hey, thank you so much.